Right, we begin our bulletin today with a build-up to the budget statement and economic policy of the government of Ghana for the year 2020. Now, that budget is the election year budget, and so there's a lot at stake here. Usually, around the time government raises taxes to shore up revenue. But with many tax hikes in previous years already, government may want a more creative way of raking in revenue for critical sectors. Now, this afternoon, there's overwhelming public support for the proposal to increase sin taxes on cigarettes, alcohol and other products deemed to be harmful to consumers. Now, we have views from the street, experts and, of course, consumers. Now, the Drunkards Association also wants the sin tax increased. Why? We'll get to hear from them shortly. Also, on our bill today, LPG marketers want government to cut the taxes on commodity to make it cheaper and, of course, eventually drive Ghanaians to patronize it and save the environment. First, though, a report looking ahead to tomorrow. Matilda Wemaga has our top story.
Finance Minister Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta is set to present the 2020 budget statement in Parliament. Already there are discussions, there are proposals being made. One of such proposals is an increase in sin tax, an increase in tax of alcohol, an increase in tax for tobacco, and then an increase in things considered as harmful to the human body. What do experts make of this proposal? What do you make of this proposal as well? We will be finding out and bring you all the details that you need to know as far as the sin tax is concerned.
Interest groups fighting against the spread of non-communicable diseases, NCDs, in the country are proposing an increment in taxes on tobacco, cigarette, alcohol and other sugar-sweetened products to increase their prices so as to make them unattractive for consumption. According to statistics, overweight, obesity, cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular and other non-communicable and chronic diseases, once considered as problems in only high-income countries, are now on the rise in low and middle-income countries including Ghana and particularly in urban settings. Evidence suggests that reducing the consumption of cigarettes and other tobacco-related products and alcohol reduces the risk of unhealthy weight gain in adults and other NCDs. The proposal, which seeks an increment in the ad valorem excise tax on tobacco, which currently stands at 175%, by at least 50% to 252% in the 2020 budget statement, has already been submitted to the Finance Ministry. Labram Musa is Programs Director for Vision for Alternative Development, the group championing this proposal.
And the WHO and other world-meaning institutions have actually recommended taxes on these commodities so that at least when you increase on this commodity, it reduces consumption. That's number one. It also reduces the poor and the vulnerable, who are mostly the target of these particular industries. You know, it also reduces their consumption level. It also serves as a huge revenue stream for government, you know, to finance its national health insurance. Which is currently having a lot of problems, and even many health issues that the country is currently, struggling to support. We as a group have actually met with the Ministry of Finance. We sent a proposal to them. We met them, and then we discussed and sent our proposals to them. The issue is that we have done some follow-up, but we've not been given any concrete, results as to whether our proposals said or accepted by government to increase tax on this commodity as we propose. Okay. Bearing in mind the challenges that this commodity put on the individual, especially the poor.
On the streets, Ghanaians seems divided on the matter.
I strongly believe that the health status of a nation matters much to a very strategic person. You understand? So whatever has to be done in order to ameliorate the situation, you understand, in order for the numbers of those who are smoking to deplete, you understand, I strongly believe that it's a laudable idea and we all need to support it.
Or taking in alcohol is not just something we see, but it's more of an addiction, it's more of an attitude or a behavior. And if we probably want to change behavior, there are many ways of doing it, not increasing taxes. You can increase taxes though, but still people will purchase it.
nipa no nsa pa enti sa ban mo de tax no koto nsa cigarette tumu a but for say obetuma nya sika mu ohono mo e da koboa health centers no
in such a way that if the government increases tax on alcohol, some people may not be able to buy or purchase it, but others may be able to purchase. But on the other side, it might affect the business of other people. So implementing or bringing this policy on board, it wouldn't be a favorable policy. So the government have to engage the people in order to seek the ideas.
Tax expert William Owusu-Dementia says the government must tread cautiously on that path.
It's a good idea, but we need to take it with caution.
Okay.
Now, whenever government is trying to introduce a tax handle on a product, there are critical factors the government needs to consider. We always say that the tax must make economic sense. What we mean by that is that if, for instance, you impose a tax of 50 pesos on a product, how many people can afford that particular product after imposing the tax of 50%? And if you get the number of people who can afford it, what is the expected revenue you can generate from that? So one critical factor in determining the impact or the incidence of a tax on a product is what we call the elasticity of the product. So one, government must first do that analysis, get to know that if I impose the tax on a particular product, what will be the reaction of the normal consumer? Would I get the needed revenue? Would it deter them? Or they will still continue to purchase anyway? These are analyses we need to do before we decide to go ahead and implement the tax on some of these products.
Okay, but is this something that you think is feasible?
Yes, I mean, generally, that's what we call it syntax, is to prevent people from doing a particular thing that government considers to be detrimental to society. So normally you do it by either imposing what we call excise duties on them or imposing duties on them when they are imported. Import duties are inched up on these products. But one thing we found is that the world over, these sin taxes do not really deter people. It can reduce the consumption some people make on it, but it really doesn't serve as a deterrence. And the question we need to ask ourselves is, how much money are we going to raise? Because remember, we must put systems in place to be able to, as it were, implement the tax. How much are we going to raise? How much are we going to spend to put the systems in place? Is it going to encourage smuggling and people trying to go and have a black market economy? These are all things that we need to think through in designing the policy so that we do not implement the policy and not achieve the purpose. I give you a perfect example. The luxury vehicle levy.
Sure.
We implemented it with all the fanfare and we lost about 80%. We didn't meet about 80% of the targeted revenue. So instead of rushing to just implement it, we should take our time, consult the necessary stakeholders, do the real economic tax impact analysis, and then when we are sure that it is something that can bring us the needed revenue and serve the deterrence, we can implement it.
The government's decision will only be determined in the 2020 budget, set for presentation on Wednesday. For JoyNews, Matilda Bamagan, Accra.
Right, here in the studio with me is Labram Musa. He's Programs Director for Vision for Alternative Development and the National Coordinator of the Ghana Non-Communicable Diseases or Commendable Diseases Alliance for a conversation on the matter. Non-communicable diseases, forgive me. Right. Nice to see you, Labram. Thank you very much for making the time.
Welcome.
Now, I've noticed that when it comes to a discussion about sin tax, people talk about alcohol, cigarettes. I don't hear much about things like sugar, which have a much broader way of damaging, people. So would you be advocating for tax on sugar as well?
Yes, so that is why, thank you very much for having me in your studios. In fact, that's for the reason why we have, if you look at the name of the organization, it's called Non-Communicable Disease Alliance, so which encapsulates almost all the diseases that come as a result of, our unhealthy eating and that stuff. So it has to do with, with tobacco, alcohol, unhealthy commodities, sugar sweetened beverages. In fact, we are advocates for all of them. If you look at the press release that we issued and the policy that we came with, it has almost all the components, and we have prescribed I mean, how much we want government to actually levy on each of the community, just so we reduce the burden that, I mean, the world and even Ghana is actually confronted with as far as non-communicable diseases are concerned.
Do you want to walk us through some of the numbers?
Right. So what I can tell you specifically is that currently, you know, I mean, NCD is responsible for 94,400 deaths annually in the country. That's why I say when, I mean, the expert was speaking, you know, sometimes they forget the fact that, see, it has a lot of health implications of which the country is currently grappling to actually solve. Now, one of them is the cancers, the diabetes, the strokes that we currently have, I mean, in the system. And I remember during the EcoBank forum, one doctor at the Kolobuchi Hospital actually said that on Fridays, for instance, the incidents that come to the hospital, he said about 16%, about 15 of the incidents that come to the hospital every Friday are non-communicable diseases.
Right.
The cancers, the strokes. So you ask yourself, then what is the cause of this particular, I mean, trend that we are currently facing as a nation? It all has to do with the fact that we've not been able to actually regulate, the system very well, to the extent that we have alcohol, tobacco, unhealthy commodities all over us, and no proper measures is still put in place to actually reduce, the availability and affordability. That is why, as a group, we thought that if we look at the trend since 2014, there hasn't been tax increment on tobacco products. But the WHO has actually recommended that, you know, progressive tax on these commodities helps a lot to reduce, you know, consumption, reduce our health burden, and also serve as a revenue stream for government. You know, so we can't fathom the reason why since 2014 there hasn't been tax increment on tobacco products. You know, and same applies to alcohol. I can say that for about 10 years now, there hasn't been a single tax increment on this commodity. So then it means that continuously the prices become very cheaper and cheaper in the market. And who are the targets? If I may ask you, the poor, the vulnerable. Obviously, I don't know whether if you drink or smoke, but I don't think you would use the upper class or the middle class who will spend 50 pesos or 70 pesos to buy an alcoholic beverage. No. Meanwhile, you see a lot of alcoholic beverage in the system, which costs less than 1 cedi. Cigarette is also costing about 20 pesos. A stick of cigarette. I mean, it's available, it's cheap everywhere, and anybody can afford it. But we are saying that when you go to advanced countries, you wouldn't see such a thing. You know, but I'm not surprised because the industry have already said, clearly that they found a new market. A new market is Africa and other Asian countries. And this is where they are pumping their products. And most of the products are virtually, unwholesome products, you know, low quality products. You know, so that is why we are calling on government. As a matter of urgency, you know, and the fact that, you know, government is already talking about the fact that they need money, to run the economy.
Let's talk about that. Your expectation is that this will raise revenue. But we've seen attempts to tax things that are a nuisance in the past. We saw the luxury vehicle tax. They pointed to carbon emissions and size of engine as what they were targeting with the tax. It didn't work. Why are you confident that some other type of sin tax on consumables like cigarettes and so forth would work?
Yeah, because it has worked in the past, you know, and we think that they call it, because in the past, when you look at the trend from 2007, to somewhere 2014 thereabout, the tax has worked, you know. And when we met with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Tax Policy Union, they clearly told us that indeed, the tax on this, in fact, almost all the health structures that we have met, they all said, they are for it. The Ministry of Health is actually 100% for this particular tax increment, because when it comes, it's going to help them to reduce, the continual health burden at the hospitals, you know. Right. So the focus or the honor is now on the Ministry of Finance to actually implement. And it has worked in many countries. Now you go to countries like Chile. Let me come back to our setting. Go to Kenya, for instance, recently increased tax on tobacco and other unhealthy commodity, and this was actually declared by the president himself. You know, because they see the importance that the country as a whole would drive, because it does so many things. It doesn't only reduce consumption. Revenue stream is there. Our health system is virtually collapsing, especially the NHIE. So we are seeing increase the tax and then earmark I mean, the money specifically for such a cause. Philippines is one of the best examples, and Thailand. I mean, and I don't think the economy is different from ours. They've done it because they feel that because they need to protect their citizens. And that's, for me, that's the most important thing. Government have the utmost responsibility to protect the citizens of its country. And one of the measures is through what we are calling for. There are many measures. But for now, since, I mean, this is what we're talking about, and the fact that there's going to be, budget is going to be read, we feel strongly that if government consider this, and then we give it a try and see how much revenue government is actually, going to read.